The courtroom was already tense before Officer Grant Walker started laughing. Vanessa Brooks stood quietly near the defense table, holding a folder tightly against her chest while dozens of people watched her nervously. She wore a gray business suit, but her trembling hands made it obvious something was wrong. Officer Walker noticed it immediately. "Well," he said loudly with a smirk, "looks like somebody's finally realizing they're in serious trouble." A few people in the gallery exchanged uncomfortable looks. Vanessa lowered her eyes, trying to stay calm. Judge Miriam Ellis hadn't entered the courtroom yet, so the room was filled only with whispers and tension. Walker slowly walked closer to Vanessa. "You know," he mocked, "people like you always act confident until reality hits." Vanessa stayed silent. That irritated him even more. "You really thought you could walk in here and challenge police officers?" He laughed. "Bad idea." Several reporters quietly recorded the confrontation. One court clerk looked visibly uncomfortable. Walker leaned even closer now, pointing toward her face. "You should have stayed quiet instead of pretending you belonged here." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. The courtroom became painfully silent. Everyone could see the officer humiliating her publicly, but nobody interrupted him. Then Walker chuckled and shook his head. "This is exactly why people don't take complaints seriously anymore." Vanessa finally looked at him directly and quietly asked, "Are you finished?" Walker laughed again. "What are you going to do about it?" At that exact moment, the courtroom doors opened. Everyone turned immediately. Judge Miriam Ellis entered alongside two court officers. The room stood respectfully, all except Vanessa, because instead of sitting down, she calmly walked past the defense table, past the confused prosecutor, past Officer Walker himself, straight toward the judge's bench. Walker frowned instantly. "Hey," he barked. "Where do you think you're going?" Vanessa never answered. Judge Ellis calmly stepped aside. Then, to the shock of everyone in the courtroom, Vanessa took the judge's seat. Complete silence. Officer Walker stared in disbelief. "What the hell is this?" Judge Ellis looked directly at him. "Officer Walker," she said calmly, "allow me to introduce Chief Justice Vanessa Brooks." The courtroom exploded into whispers. Walker's face turned completely pale, because the crying black woman he had spent 10 minutes mocking wasn't a defendant. She wasn't a witness. She was the senior federal judge assigned to oversee misconduct complaints against local law enforcement. Vanessa slowly looked down at him from the bench. Gone was the nervous expression. Now she looked calm, cold, controlled. Walker stepped backward. "And no, nobody told me." "That's the point," Judge Brooks interrupted quietly. The courtroom became silent again. Vanessa folded her hands together. "For the past 3 months," she explained calmly, "I've attended misconduct hearings anonymously after receiving multiple reports about officer behavior inside court facilities." Walker couldn't even speak. Several people in the gallery now stared directly at him with disgust. Vanessa continued, "Most officers treated civilians respectfully." Then she looked him directly in the eyes. "You didn't." Walker swallowed hard. "You mocked me before knowing who I was," she said quietly. "Which means this is how you treat people you believe have no power." Nobody moved. Nobody even whispered now, because the officer who laughed at her moments earlier had completely destroyed himself in front of an entire courtroom. Vanessa slowly opened the folder she carried. Inside were written complaints, security reports, witness statements, and Officer Walker's name appeared repeatedly. The officer looked terrified now. Judge Brooks spoke one final time. "Respect isn't something you offer only to powerful people," she said calmly. "That's called fear." Complete silence filled the courtroom as Officer Grant Walker stood frozen in front of the very woman he humiliated minutes earlier. And for the first time that morning, he had nothing left to say.